I had one counterintuitive point I wanted to make.
Sure.
Some of my younger colleagues, Brandy Zadrozny's, an amazing reporter at NBC who's done a terrific job covering disinformation for years. I mean, she wrote about the Tennessee company and the Russian, effort. But a lot of the videos that company, again, these are the sort of unwitting Americans who are producing Russian disinformation, not don't even realize they're working for Russia, but that lots of them didn't get that many views. There's a school of thought where there's a lot of effort going on, but and I just is this really having an effect on the American electorate? It's very hard to know that, but I just had when I have younger colleagues look at some of the numbers, they're not sort of blown away. A certain tweet gets, you know, reposted, 100 times. But I don't. Gordon would know more than me on this.
I think there are definitely some themes, especially that the Russians have promoted, where they've made some impact. I think one example would be claims that Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky is using Western aid in a corrupt manner. I mentioned some of these examples earlier, but the John Mark Dougan network of what look like local news sites across the United States have published all sorts of claims about Zelensky and his corruption. Um, One was that King Charles sold him an estate for millions and millions of dollars. Sting, the musician, sold him a winery in Tuscany. He bought yachts. His wife went on a shopping spree. We noticed so many of these actually that at NewsGuard we operate a newsletter called Reality Check. And when Zelensky was in the United States, we asked our readers of the Reality Check newsletter to send us predictions on what claim about Vladimir Zelensky's corruption the Russians would make based on his trip to the United States. And we had excellent feedback from our readers. Some wrote in that he'd buy tickets at the Trump golf courses, or that he would buy 100,000 copies of Justice Sotomayor's latest book. But nobody predicted what the Russians actually said, which, as you'll recall, Zelensky was here a couple of weeks ago. Tends to take them a couple of weeks to get geared up. The false claim that appeared yesterday was that while Zelensky was in the United States, he purchased for $15 million Adolf Hitler's favorite Mercedes. Completely false story. It ran with a lot of detail. AI generated fake photo of this car, a picture of the car and Zelensky. And we can sort of laugh and say, well, those seem like crazy claims. But the Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee not too long ago said that Russian disinformation claims about Zelensky have been aired by members of Congress.
Yep.
And there have been accusations about corruption by Zelensky, including references to yachts, by name. All of those claims are completely false. Our analysts actually contacted the broker who's selling the yachts that were the subject of the Russian disinformation about Zelensky. And the broker said, no, 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 they're still for sale. Would you like to buy them? We contacted the butler at Highgrove Estate, which the Russians claimed Zelensky had bought from King Charles for, I think it was 20 million pounds. And the butler told our reporter, no, I don't see any changes around here. It's still owned by King Charles. Why wouldn't it be? So these claims are crazy, easy to refute, and yet in volume and repeated often enough do have some effect. So I think it's hard to measure, absolutely, but I think we would err by dismissing the Russian and Chinese and Iranian efforts as, somehow silly or a waste of time and resources. I think they know what they're doing, and I think they think they're getting a good payback for their efforts.